Have you been studying Spanish for a while, really putting a lot of time into it, but you're still having trouble when the time comes to have an actual conversation? Maybe you're freezing, you're like, You're not alone, it's super common. And I'm gonna tell you, it's not that you don't know Spanish. I mean, you've been studying it, you know a lot of things. It's just that you haven't been training to have a conversation. The training's different because a conversation is a time-sensitive event. It's like the target shooter that spends all of his time carefully, aiming, looking at the target, and then hitting the mark, taking his time again, hitting the mark. And he's great at it. That's what he's trained for. But suddenly he's in a timed event, it's rapid shooting, he's not doing well. It's not that he doesn't know how to shoot. He knows how to shoot. He just hasn't trained for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to train you for that. That's what this entire video is about. Now, before we kick it off, if you like my style of teaching and what I'm going to explain in this video, maybe what you've seen on other videos, you may want to jump over to my paid learning group, the Qroo Spanish Crew, to really take your Spanish to the next level, because this is how I teach. This is my approach to the language. This is what worked for me personally, and over the years I've taught it to thousands, I'd like to say tens of thousands of people, and the results have been great. So, Qroo Spanish Crew, I'll put a link to it in the description section of this video. So let's go ahead and jump into this. There are two main types of conversations when it comes to having conversations in a foreign language. Number one, your greetings and your small talk, okay? This is your buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Super easy. And then one level into it, the ¿Por qué estás aprendiendo español? Why are you learning Spanish? You're probably this fast on these, right? These come out pretty easily. After that, that's when you go to our second category of conversation, and that's where you're probably going, and the frustration sets in. And when that frustration sets in, that fear sets in, right? You feel your neck getting hot. You're like, oh, this is falling apart. In this video, we're really going to focus on how to work through that, how that's not going to happen, all right? Part two, the more detailed conversations. So the first thing I want you to do is stop translating in your head before you speak. And I know people are like, well, you shouldn't translate in your head from English to Spanish at all. Yeah, it's going to happen, all right? At some point, the foreign language, in this case Spanish, is just going to make sense to you without you having to think about it too hard. And it's a process. It's through a lot of exposure in the language. But in the meantime, you're definitely going to be thinking back and forth all the time. What I want you to stop doing is to try to think of an entire sentence before you spit it out. And I know you're doing it because everybody does it. You'll sit there for a minute and go, Quiero ir a la playa. That's that slow target shooter, all right? You've got to get moving on this thing. Now I have a little side story here. Don't worry, it's very short and it is relevant. My wife and I recently went to Italy to celebrate our 25th anniversary, and my wife has been learning Italian, so she was our translator. At one point, the waiter's talking to her, and I could see the wheels turning, and he stopped talking, and she's doing this. Afterwards, I was like, what are you doing? What was that long delay? Well, I was trying to think of everything I wanted to say before I said it. I'm like, it doesn't work. And to demonstrate it in another way, I want you to take a moment to think of everything you're about to say, the entire sentence in English before you say it. I'm going to start right now. Actually, I've already started. See, it's very odd, and we're not even translating yet. And then I'm having to remember what I had at the beginning of my sentence. It doesn't work. So I'm going to give you an alternative to that. And here it is. Say something. Get the sentence started. I want you to think of your sentences, what you're saying in a conversation, as like a train. I love this train analogy. You're going to hear me use it a lot if you watch my videos. You need to get this train going, at least get the locomotive going. You don't have to have all the cars attached to it. You're going to kind of add those as the train is moving, but you have to get it going. This tells the other person that you are in the conversation. They've said something. You're like, okay, I've just processed what they said. I need to say something. You need to say something. It can be some kind of a great sentence starter, and I cover these a lot in videos. It can be bueno. That's a good one. Bueno. It's like saying well, good, and you're going to move on from that. If you need a little bit more time to think, you throw on another sentence starter. Some of the great ones are creo que, I believe that, or I think that. You got a lot of time. Bueno. Creo que quiero ir a la playa. I think that I want to go to the beach. But you're controlling the conversation. There's not this awkward pause while you went. You got the train going, you're adding the cars, and you're building the sentence as you're speaking. So learning sentence starters is super important. These are going to be your locomotives and getting these things out. Your pues, well, bueno falls into that. Déjeme pensar. Let me think. Well, you could throw that one in if you really need a lot of time. Another one I really like is en cuanto a. Regarding, in reference to. This one gives you a lot of time to think. Somebody says something to you and you're like, bueno, en cuanto a lo que dijiste, well, in reference to what you said or regarding what you said, at this point, the rest of your mind is like, okay, next train car, next train car. And by this point, you might be like, okay, Paul, where are these train cars coming from? Like, where am I getting the rest of my sentence? Well, this comes back to how I teach Spanish and how I think you should learn it, even if you don't learn it from me. And that is, you learn Spanish in little segments or phrases or chunks. There's a lot of different terminology for it. It basically comes down to learning little patterns in the language that you can pop together in different orders to form these sentences. These are your train cars. Your sentence starters right there, they can be the locomotive or they can become a train car, right? First thing came out of your mouth was bueno. Stops the conversation. They're listening. They know you're going to say something. And then you took another sentence starter you usually use as a locomotive and you stuck it on there. Creo que, I believe that, or I think that. Now, some of the little phrases or segments or patterns that I teach will help you get around conjugation. And a really popular one is like quiero, I want, and then you follow it with some infinitive, which is an unconjugated verb. It takes a lot of the thought out of it. Because you're always talking about what you want or don't want, right? So you can work that in. Bueno, creo que quiero, I believe that I want, and I'm going to throw in a verb there because it's something I want to do. When I say, maybe I want to paint the house. I don't have to conjugate that second verb. Quiero pintar la casa, right? But in a conversation, it's just kind of coming out, but I didn't have the sentence ahead of time. Bueno, creo que quiero pintar la casa. That's how it works. That's how you're putting these segments together. So when you're learning the lessons, you're learning a particular segment. And then you're taking it and putting it in your toolbox, and you can take it out later to make sentences. With a lot of these little patterns, I like to call them plug and play phrases. All you have to do is learn, say, one new word, and you can take it and you know exactly where to plug it in the phrase to say something you may never have seen or heard before, at least that particular phrase or sentence. That's why this is such an effective and quick way for adults to learn Spanish. It really, really is. Now, I could talk about patterns and segments and popping them all together all day long. In fact, in some of my videos, I go into a lot of detail. But I'm trying to give you tips here to be more conversational. All right, so our next big tip here is to control the pace of the conversation. And this is something that a lot of folks, when they first start, trying to speak Spanish, fail at. The person speaking to them is speaking quickly, all right? So they're already trying to process. And then they were like, okay, I gotta respond. And they're trying to respond at the same speed. And if you're not used to running and you're just starting to walk, which you are in this language, you're gonna fall down and you're gonna fail. And it's not gonna take long. Now, you can't control how fast the person speaks to you, but you can control how fast you speak back, and it's gonna slow the conversation down. And a lot of times it makes the other person slow down. It's kind of like if we're both playing tennis, the person hits it at me really fast, and I'm just like, lightly lob it back. I'm controlling a lot of the pace of the game. So when it comes really fast, I wanna take my time. Be deliberate in your conversation. Even if this is much slower than you normally speak. One quick story, which is relevant. I do go off on my little tangents. When Linda and I first got married, my wife's family is all originally from Colombia, so is my wife. We went down to meet her family, and her uncle at the time was on the highest court in Colombia, the Constitutional Court. And so I met this gentleman, very intelligent person. I mean, his Spanish is amazing, and he's speaking very deliberately about this pace. And I thought he was doing it for my benefit. And I was like, well, I understand everything he's saying, but I was thinking, he can speak more quickly to me. I'm better than that. And then I heard him speak to other people, and that's just his pace. He's just a person who speaks very deliberately, chooses his words very carefully. So become that person, don't, get wrapped up in the speed thing. You can get faster later. So I've given you several techniques that you can use to train to be more conversational. But you have to train, right? Just reading through these and be like, all right, next time I have a conversation, I'm going to do that. If you haven't trained, you're going to fall right back on what you were doing. It's not going to work. So how are you going to train? Well, one of the ways you can do it is obviously to go out and talk to somebody in Spanish. Not everybody has that opportunity. Depends where you live. So thanks to the internet, we do have other options. One of them is to get a live tutor. That's always a good one, but it can be a little pricey. One that I actually like better than even a live tutor is to use an AI tutor. Now there are a lot of AI tutors out there, and I have tried so many of them because they are popping up on the market everywhere. They are not all created equal. I've tried, I don't even know how many I've tried now. I've tried probably about 15 or 20 of them now. And I still say that the best one is by LANGUA. LANGUA has the best one because they really break down by region. So if I'm learning Mexican Spanish, that's what I want to focus on. I want an AI that's focused on that particular Spanish. And yeah, there's so many similarities in Spanish. That's why I'm able to do videos, but there are differences. And so when I'm practicing, I want to practice with that particular accent. I want to hear those colloquialisms. And even equally important, I want the AI to use words that are common in that area. Like there can be multiple words for the same thing, and some are more common, say in Spain or Mexico, Colombia. That's how I want to practice. Well, LANGUA allows you to do that. They also have a ton of other resources on there, like flashcards and things that you can work in with the AI to really help you get up to speed. But it is a great tool to practice, these techniques and having a conversation in real time. Now I'm going to tell you that I have an affiliate link for LANGUA because I am a huge fan. I also have a discount code. If you sign up for a year, you can get 20% off. If you're planning on using LANGUA on the app, if you'll do me a favor and click my affiliate link and make an account first, it helps out the channel. If you just jump to the app and you don't go through the link and you build your account, then it doesn't help me. It'll help you because it's a fantastic program, but it doesn't help the channel. Well, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, just do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. And until next time, hasta luego.